She got into a horrific car accident that literally ripped her face off. And so I did a story about a guy here in Naples who was building her a prosthetic face, because the people that can do it well are expensive to hire, especially in a market like ours. Right? Like, so you have to hire the right people. How are you gonna build your next generation of people, right? Like, we don't have screens. We don't, like, kids don't touch, like, they have to play with actual things, right? That's very important to me. And I think very important to the ethos of our museum. For a long time, we had purposefully bad Wi-Fi because we didn't want people on their phones. We wanted them engaging with their children, right?
People have told me, it's like, hey, why don't you go into like augmented reality and stuff? And I'm like, because that defeats the whole purpose of going to a freaking museum. Hello, everyone. This time we have Jonathan Foerster from the Golisano Children Museum. I hope did I pronounce
Yeah.
did I pronounce
Yeah,
your
Jonathan
last name
Foerster,
correctly?
Golisano Children's Museum of Naples. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we have Jonathan here from the Golisano Children Museum of Naples. We've known the institution for a while. It's an amazing children museum. It's very vibrant, and they've been doing amazing on memberships. And I thought it would be amazing to bring Jonathan here to learn a little bit about his path and what he's doing. So welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks, Antonio. I appreciate it. I'm excited to have this conversation.
All right. Jonathan, so you were talking actually about you started as a journalist. So tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about.
So I always wanted to tell stories. That's been the thing that is sort of a driving factor in my life from the beginning. I was always a big consumer of information, books, magazines, newspapers, TV, radio, anywhere I could get it, and I wanted to tell the world what I knew. And so journalism was a really natural outlet for me. I also am lucky in that I was born in the state of Missouri, and the flagship university in the state of Missouri, the University of Missouri Columbia, has the world's best journalism school. And don't just take my word for it; you can look it up later. And believe me, but it is a one-of-a-kind institution. And so it was very natural for me to matriculate there, to go to college at my state university and study journalism. And I was lucky to get to do that at a time when the field was really vibrant and fun and exciting. And really, there were so many ideas. It was a time before the internet really took hold, but the internet
Okay.
was there, and it
What
was
year was
part.
it?
So I started college in 1998. And
Okay. Okay.
so the internet was nascent, right? It was beginning. It was like, Amazon existed. A few things were there, but we were still using, when my first email system there was not a web browser email like Hotmail. I had a Hotmail account when I was a kid, but it was a Pine Mail version. So there was a like thing where you still had to know the code, right? You still had to use codes to type in like certain things to get actions to happen. It wasn't a WYSIWYG sort of
You
scenario,
had
right?
the black screen
Yeah,
email.
the black screen with the green letters, right? Like, and so you had to know that if you wanted to open an email, you had to hit control and then this button and then that. And actually, one of my first jobs was in college was at the computer lab, where I helped people like print their emails and do that kind of stuff. But anyway, it was a really exciting time because the internet was so much possibility, but it also wasn't the thing that ended the way journalism is conducted, right? Newspapers were still printing, millions of copies a day, selling tons of advertisements. The ecosystem was there to be really exciting. There was a lot of possibility, but the baseline business was still very steady at that point. And so it was just this really amazing time to want to be a writer, and I was lucky to get to do it for a while. Yeah, but then at some point in my career, I started out. I worked at a paper in Scranton, Pennsylvania for a few months, and then I came to Naples, Florida, and for the Naples Daily News. And I fell into it because a bunch of other people that had graduated from my university also worked here. So it was just like a pipeline of people that came. The editor in chief was a graduate of my university. And so I got here, and it was still a really exciting time. Over time, it became less so. The pressures of the business really got to everybody. The original sin that journalism had was not valuing the internet as a distribution model. They didn't think about it as this is how we will make our money in the future. So they didn't invest in it properly, and they didn't paywall. Like if they had built paywalls from the beginning, we would live in a very different infrastructure. But the other thing that they didn't realize is how disruptive it would be to the advertising business. They made their money in selling classified ads, but then Craigslist came along and immediately didn't charge. Like you just put an ad in Craigslist and people would from all over the world could buy your stuff rather than
Yeah.
people in your neighborhood. And so they didn't have the foresight and nobody did. Like I want to
Nobody
say
did. Nobody
no,
did.
it was so disruptive, right? It was one of those like it's sort of what AI is right now, right? It's a time when there are going to be industries that lose because nobody can predict what's going to happen in the future. And unfortunately, for me and my dream of being a storyteller all the time, journalism became a less fun and less profitable thing, which then made it harder for businesses to sustain. And there were,
I actually, so I did, my studies were in engineering,
okay,
but it was more like process engineering. And I did that around 4 years of engineering. And then I said, I'm going to go to journalism school. Because what I wanted to do was to write. And I went
yeah,
and I did like, and it was, I went to do it in Florida International University. And I
okay,
did
yeah,
1 year of journal of master in journalism. And
hmm
and it was interesting because at some point, so there was this person in Tampa. He's like, "Hey, come and do broadcast."
hmm
And it's one of those forks in your life. And I said,
hmm
"No, I'm gonna go back to engineering because
yeah,
to your point, like the salaries were not great. And I was young. I wasn't most you already have like engineering bills. And it's like, oh my God, like how am I gonna?
yeah.
And then I was like, I went to, but I always thought it's like, oh my God, if people ask me, it's like, where did you see your fork? It's like, that was a fork. That was an important fork. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, what's fascinating is that now you would actually be like your skill set would be very valuable in journalism because what's happened is you need a base of knowledge outside of how to tell a story to be successful. You need a niche. And so, like, if you wrote about engineering and you wrote about it from the perspective of somebody who understands that, not as somebody who's just learning about it, right? There would be a great value in that. But at the time, it was much more of a generalist sort of society where like you needed to be able to like parachute, and that was my skill. I was very good at parachuting into a new situation and learning everything there is to know about something in 24, 48, 72 hours, and then coming back and telling you about it. But yeah.
I had a blast. And you know what? And it was interesting because there was also kind of like this was 19 no this was 2000 and 2006
hmm
2005 something like that. And it was kind of that time I think where it was like the whole disenchantment with the
hmm
profession. And I
Yeah.
remember like my teacher like seeing me there, and it's like, Antonio, it's not worth it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. That, I mean, that was probably about the time that I
Like,
started
and this
thinking
was
about,
yeah,
yeah.
and he was like an eminence, He was like
Mhm.
a very like eminent like journalist, and he took it like it's like Antonio, it's not worth it, man. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. I mean, I held on until 2011 is when I left journalism for good. I still miss the activity of it very much, but I found that the skills from it are hyper transferable.
yeah,
To like if somebody asked me today, should I go to journalism school? I would still say yes, because the
yeah,
things you learn there are the things you actually need to succeed in business. So much of what we do now is not about subject matter expertise. It's about how do we disseminate the information that we find and how do we communicate.
curiosity,
Yeah, being curious, wanting to know why something works is much more important sometimes than knowing how it works.
yeah,
Right? And so if you already know that, you take things for granted. You stop having the curiosity about the way it goes. And so the exploration process, I think, is super critical. And just being able to have a conversation like we're having is very
yeah.
challenging
Like
for
the
younger
whole
people.
relationship
Yeah.
building
hmm
of the absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so are there is there like a story that you did in journalism that kind of like, oh my God, like that was such a cool story.
Actually, yes, and it's similar, semi close to home. For you, I did a piece about a woman named Amalia Mendoza who grew up in rural Colombia and lived there her entire life. And she got into a horrific car accident that literally ripped her face off, but she survived. And so I did a story about a guy here in Naples who was building her a prosthetic face. And I got to spend time with her and her daughter and the guy that was doing the work and just like really diving into what it means to have this very visible part of you that's sort of the window to the way the world views you gone, right? Like she just had, unfortunately, a giant hole where her nose was. She was blind and could, like, she had no eyes or eye cavities, like, but somehow she survived, right? Like it's a horrific thing that most people die from. There's a reason why you don't hear about this very often. It's because most people would not have survived that, right? And yet she still lived a very vibrant, full life with like she had like something that looked like gum rubber. I don't know if you know, like eraser rubber, right? Like that
Yeah,
was all over her face to sort of make her. And this guy made her a face, right? Like he was a prosthetics wizard and also like a guy who spent a lot of time thinking about like how monster movies are made and like
yeah. He's
learned
like,
how
here's
to
a
like
challenge.
yes. And it was just a tremendous thing. And so I spent weeks with them, just like interviewing, hanging out, being there for really mundane moments, really impactful moments, and so that's something that I will be forever proud of. It's such a wonderful opportunity to get to tell her story and be trusted to tell her story because that's such a
Yeah,
personal thing, right?
absolutely. And it's such interesting because now with AI, one of the things that people ask me is like, hey, so how are you doing AI and how is this impacting and all this stuff? And I can see it from several perspectives.
Hmm.
And it's scary and at the same time is wonderful because some of the things that I think is like, hey, you know what's going away? Mediocrity is going away.
Well,
And
no, I don't know that
and
it is. I think it's getting replaced with a different mediocrity, right? Like I think that what we're settling for is that the AI has the best version of the thing, but that's not necessarily true. It makes everything the same, right? Like eventually we're going to lose if we lean on it too heavily for our iterative creative writing process, for example, right? I think
but
we're going to
that
lose.
but because you can tell when it's AI written.
Exactly. And so that's the new mediocrity. It's better than the bar was before. So it makes it higher, but then it's going to be this new level area where the people that really excel are the people who can be creative above it, right? Like that's
Yeah. Well, but you think about it because you're looking at it from the writing perspective.
mhm.
But AI is not going to go interview the woman with the face.
No, no,
AI
no,
is not
absolutely.
going to
No, no, can't
go,
do that. No,
so,
can't do it.
so that part is going to go. It's going to go away. Like, it's just
Yeah.
going to be like, the people that are like, oh, I'm just going to take this part of this article here and this part of this article here. And I'm just going to put, it's like, no, AI already does that. It's like,
Yeah. No,
it,
no, I agree with that. Yeah, I think so. I think that what I find in business, the thing is like I use it all the time, right? Like I was a professional writer and I still use it to like I'm like, hey, write me an email that says this. Because it is time saving. And once you've trained it with your voice and you've worked on it a lot, you can get approximation of what you might do, and it is time saving. But like for the truly important stuff, right?
yeah.
The difference is going to be whether or not you are willing to put in the effort it takes to make it human. And the amazing thing is where I think that's where children's museums are going to become a very much more important and vital to our society because we are still about teaching people how to be human,
It's
right?
so it's very interesting because I'm in this conversation. It's like, how are museums using it? And I'm like, I'm going to tell you from the product perspective, like where I see, like where at least where we're going, right?
Hmm.
And it is, for example, saying it's not like the day to day. There are things that you don't want to change.
Hmm.
Like the other day, for example, I went to a hotel in Miami, and there was just like all these iPads. Like there was one guy in the front desk from a hotel that was like crowded, and you would just go in and check in yourself.
Hmm.
And like we actually just launched like our kiosk, but I'm like, that already exists. It's not really AI. Like I think it's gonna be. I think that where for example the museum is gonna be like, oh, I want to create a donation page, and it's not like our job is to tell you, it's like, hey, here's some templates. It's like, no, 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 like just type it, what like just prompt it, and we will
Hmm.
produce a page with your prompt,
Yeah,
and then you have a wonderful page that fits whatever you want it to do. You want to capture
of
certain
course. Yeah.
here and there,
Hmm.
and then, for example, this is actually something I am going to schedule a session with you probably in a couple of days or in a week, but tell you is like, hey, let's connect Claude to VBART and then just say,
Hmm.
hey, do me a favor, provide me year-to-year analysis of visitation, and Claude will just like boom, and
Yeah.
tell you. And it's
Hmm.
like, oh, and by the way, give me the board presentation
Hmm.
update. Here's the old one, just give me the old one, and then it'll just spit it out, right?
Sure.
And that, for example, we actually are testing it right now with like our cloud integrations. That like
Hmm.
it's just like we need to do it like with the directors and show it to them because then you have access to the data. And there's certain things
Yeah.
we'll tell you about it. But it's amazing. It's amazing what it can do. It's amazing. But you as a museum don't want to lose that personal touch,
Mhm.
that community part of things, right?
Well, I don't want to lose that. I also want to teach kids how to be human, right? Like I think that what we're losing is that at some point we're going to be so dependent on these tools, and that's fine for certain things, but we need to make sure that they have the skills to do the interpersonal work that AI can't do, right? That like, we need to teach kids more executive function. I don't need to know the capitals of all 50 states because I can ask Siri to tell me that and it happens immediately, right? Like even the most basic AI can manage those kind of questions. Like I don't need specialized equipment. The internet gives me that information. So I need to, it's less about knowing things and about knowing what to do and how to use things, right?
Yeah.
And about how to interact with people because I firmly believe that our next great leaders in business and in all these other fields are going to be people who know how to communicate directly with the people they're doing business with, right? That's where it's not going to be about engineering skills. It's not going to be about like technical expertise in some area. It's going to be about, okay, I can relate to you. People
Yeah.
are going to give their
Yeah.
money and their trust to the people they can relate to, right? And so
Yeah.
we need to be, as children's museums, we're in a good place to build the skills, the basic building blocks of those skills that allow people to interreact, right? Like interrelate. So
So
I think we're even more important now in the age of AI than we were before, because before there were lots of other ways where people were doing that. Now there aren't that many, and so we need to be really present to do that for people.
yeah. Jonathan, so how did you did the jump into the museum world?
So it's still a few like I got a few leaps from journalism to there. So
All right.
I went to work for an arts organization in Naples after I left working in magazines, and I was their communications director. And I really liked that working in nonprofits made me feel good in the same way that telling a story made me feel good, right? Like I was still storytelling for them. I was just telling a specific story with a specific intent, right? Whereas before I was trying to tell a story to see, and then let people decide what they wanted to do with that information. I was trying to help them live their life better. Now I'm telling a story with a specific impact in mind, right? And so there's some creativity that comes with that that's different than journalism, but I found that I really liked it. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna set my sights on working in nonprofits. I am an ambitious person by nature, so I'm like, no, I didn't just set my sights to be in nonprofits. I wanted to run a nonprofit. Like if I'm gonna do something, I want to do it at the best level I possibly can. And so I started thinking about what I needed to learn in order to be a leader in nonprofits. And the answer was fundraising. I had not done a lot of fundraising, but also fundraising is storytelling. And so it fit my skill set.
Else.
It fit my skill set. So I was like, okay, I found an organization, a local humane society that needed both. They had a new CEO. She was from out of market. She had a lot of experience in running animal organizations, but she didn't know our community and she didn't know what the expectations were in our community. And so I got connected with her and we just sort of hit it off. And she hired me to run their communications and fundraising department. And so even though I'd never technically raised a dollar in my life, but it was so she took a leap of faith, and I'm very grateful for it to this day. But I also took a leap of faith there that I could do it, right? Like I was setting myself up not to, it wasn't quite a fake it till you make it, but it was close. It was like I had the general outlines of what I needed to do and how I needed to do it, but I had to get in there and use the journalism skills again to really dive in, understand, ask questions about everything, really embed myself in this new field, in this new community of work, and then but it worked out really well. I was good at it, and the we had a lot of success, and so the
What surprised you? What, like, was there anything that you're like, oh man, this is interesting?
I mean, I think that the thing that surprised me is just how personal the relationship to giving money is. Right? Like
Okay, tell me
that
about
it's
that.
so it's very different people feel differently about it. Like you sort of assume that, we all place our own lived experience and our own viewpoint. And, when we don't have information about how somebody else views something, we just put our framework on it, right? We listen. So I assume that people gave for the same reasons that I gave, right? Like that I cared about an institution. I wanted to do good. I had some extra, money that I could give away. I grew up in a family that valued, giving away. It was a religious. My dad was a minister, so like that was part of the culture that I grew up in. And so I assumed that everybody felt that way, but that's not true. Some people want recognition, right? Some people want access to something. Some people, and so it took me a while to really understand that you have to. The reason why fundraising is such an interpersonal business and is not like a mass market thing, except for mailers and things like that, is that you have to learn each person and understand what their motivation is first. And then you ask them to give, right? And then you say, hey, let me help you get this recognition that you're looking for. Hey, if you donate, you get this access. Or hey, if you donate, nobody has to ever know, and we can, well, it'll be a secret between me and you, but look at the good you'll do, right? Like look at the joy that you will spread, so that you could find that. And I don't know why that wasn't obvious to me, but it wasn't at first. And so it took me really diving into it, and it was really eye-opening. But now it makes perfect sense. Right now it makes so much sense that like just like we all have different reasons for doing all of the things that we do in our lives. That is one of those. It's a very personal decision, and it's not a. It's why it's hard too. It's why it's hard work to get people
But,
to
but,
give
but
money.
you know, it's so interesting. What you're saying is so interesting. I was actually talking to another museum this morning about exactly this.
Mhm.
Um, and and what I said to them, it's like you are selling this product, right? Which to your point, the problem is that you are discovering the product that you're selling in the first parts of that conversation. Because to your
Absolutely.
point, every time is different. And so I was telling is like there was this institution that I donated in my home city, and I'm like, what you're selling to me is the feeling that I'm doing good for the city, for my
Hmm.
my hometown, right? That
Hmm.
I'm giving for my hometown. And we were just talking about this, and I think that you put it in such a succinct way because we are selling a product that we don't know what it is, and it's part of the job to discover it and see
Yep.
if it's in our menu of
Mhm.
things that we can provide.
Right. And not every time it's going to be, right? Like there are going to be donors people who are really passionate, care, like adjacent to what you're doing. They have some interest in it or whatever. And it's just not going to align because the menu of things that you have to offer them is not what resonates with them personally, right? I've talked to many people who love children, want to support education, but the Children's Museum just isn't the right fit. Like it's not the right thing. And I appreciate that. I'm fine with that. Like I don't expect everybody to support my organization just because I work there or whatever that is. Like I don't have an expectation. We have to earn every dollar, right? We have to earn it every year. That's one of the challenging things about the product that you're selling is it's not traditional sales, right? It's not like if I sell you one Cadillac that then and you have a good experience with that Cadillac that you're necessarily going to go back and buy another Cadillac. That you may want an Audi next time. Like that might have the new fashion might be that you or maybe you got a big promotion in a race, so you want a Porsche, right? Like you don't want the Cadillac anymore. You want something a little more exciting. And so, that's it's
The
fun.
beauty of it.
Yeah, it is the beauty of it, but it's also the stress of it. It's also the challenge of it. It's also why it costs so much money to raise money, because it requires a lot of really time intensive work. This is not something AI can tell us who to ask money from, but it can't tell us how to ask them for money.
Let's stick down on that. You just said a sentence that was interesting to me, and you said like the amount of money that it costs to raise money.
Mhm.
Why do you say that?
Because the people that can do it well are expensive to hire. especially in a market like ours,
It's
right? Like, so you have to hire the right people, and you have to be willing to invest in them. This is not an entry level job, but there are entry level jobs in philanthropy, obviously, because people have to learn somehow, right? But there are skill sets. And to be quite honest, our biggest competitor isn't other philanthropies necessarily, other charities, though we obviously work with people who have worked at other organizations, but it's things like luxury sales. It's things like these other businesses that require really intensive relationship building and really intentional actions and the ability to track those intentional actions across multiple people in multiple timelines at the same time, right? I have to be able to say, okay, I need to talk to these 7 people this week, and they all have different motivations, and I have to remember birthdays and anniversaries and names of kids and all of these things. And yeah, I have notes and I keep track of it in ways, but like I have to be able to pull that up. So I have to be somebody who has tremendous capacity for information and information retaining, and then also the ability to quickly pivot from one thing to the next. And those people are just they're challenging to find and expensive to hire. And so we have to, but you have to invest in that. And I've worked in organizations and even in this organization currently at different times where we either didn't have the right person or people, or we were in transition in the people that we were investing in, and it's not a perfect science. That's the problem. I can't go to you and talk to you and read your resume and know for sure that you're going to work for us.
right.
So it is also, it's a lot of trial and error.
And you also have to have this personality, right?
Yeah.
Which is it's and so one of the things that you mentioned there, which is like I come from the private world where to me fundraising is kind of the sales
Mhm.
part of the organization.
Sure.
You are producing experiences for the children, and that's kind of
Mhm.
like but this the way that the money comes in is through these fundraising sales and stuff like that. Um,
Sure.
a big like a portion, right? Depending on the type of museum you are, right?
Mhm.
Because I can see it, for example, there's some times that we see a museum and it's like, oh, I'm going to talk to a director, and it's like I need to understand. And there's some, for example, that are very strong in membership. There's some that are very strong in programming. There's other very strong in rentals. Kind of like it's all over the board, right?
Mhm.
But the fundraising part is kind of the one piece that I think is like this is like as more as like my type of sales, right? In
Mhm.
which we have to develop the relationship, we have to show, we have to, and one of the things that I talk to people is like, well, we pay commissions, right? Like
Mhm.
for raising, and I know that in the museum world, is like,
So yeah, I mean, so we don't do that, right? Like the code of ethics is not a direct commission standard. I think a lot of places provide bonus structures that for hitting goals, but it's
mm,
not like because what we don't want is to create a sort of mercenary. We want to build relationships with the organization. I don't want people to just build relationships with the fundraiser, and I
yeah,
don't want that fundraiser to take that relationship to the next place and then take the money that people were
it's
giving to our
hard.
organization, right? Like, oh no, it's 100% hard. Like, and they do build personal
It's hard
relationships.
from, I mean, it's hard for you to take it's like, oh, I'm a fundraising. So I'm not selling cars, right? Like I'm
No,
selling, I'm selling like a commitment to a cause, right? Like,
yes, but in like museums are a great opportunity. Like children's museums are a little bit different because of the audience we serve. But like if I worked for the Met, right, and I'm talking to a big donor about a gift, I'm also selling them access. I'm selling them like the ability to come to a gala. I'm selling them the ability to be at a dinner with a curator. I'm selling them, telling them like somebody that like if they are a specialized collection, there's somebody at my museum that can talk to them about their collection and maybe the kind of pieces they should be looking for next, right? Like there is real things that real value that you're providing outside of just the desire to do good and feel good, right? In for a lot of nonprofits, there's a lot of opportunity. Like when I worked at the Humane Society, I also somebody who was a big enough donor, they got different access to the veterinary clinic. They got different access to like if they were looking for a specific kind of dog to adopt and we knew that we were going to have one, we would call them, right? Like you get access to a lot of
yeah,
things. And so it's not just a straight up like give me this money and I will make you will feel good about it, right? Like that's not the whole picture. And it's definitely important that it's not the whole picture because that's a generational shift that is really happening in philanthropy right now. The older generations were much more cognizant of giving for the sake of giving, and younger generations are much more interested in what that does for them.
Really? That's so interesting.
100%. And it's not, I don't say that as a negative. I just say that as
No.
a shift in mindset, right? Like it's, we find that our donors are much more interested in buying auction items than they are about just raising their paddle at the auction. And that's okay. Our
Yeah.
job as fundraisers is to provide them with the opportunities to do that thing so that we can also raise money for the cause and that everybody feels good about it at the end, right? Like they feel good, we feel good, the people that we serve feel good. That's the whole point.
So Jonathan, you just came from the Children Museum Association event, and I'm
Mhm.
curious about the challenges that you were seeing that other museums were facing. What would you say, well, the top challenges that you're seeing out there for other institutions like yours?
Yeah, I think right now it's attendance. Attendance is softer. We're definitely across the industry seeing a softening of people coming to museums. And I think it's just a general economic, situation at the moment. I think that people have felt a little bit uncertainty about the economy over the last few years and are just making belt-tightening decisions. And unfortunately, even though we feel like we're a necessary thing for, most people, that's not the feeling that they have about a children's museum. It's fun, it's educational, it provides value, but there are other things that they could also be doing with that money. And so, we have to, it's the continuing challenge of relevance. And I think any cultural institution has to be cognizant of how they are being relevant for their community. So we're always looking for new ways to do that. But I think that across the board right now, I'm hearing from almost all of my colleagues that they are seeing softer attendance in the last 12 to 16 months than they had seen previously. There was, for us at least in Naples, a huge boom after COVID. We had
Yeah.
a lot of people moving to our community, a lot of young families moving to our community. And our birth rate is still going
In
up.
general, yeah.
Yeah. But we're also lucky in that the number of births in our community is still rising, which is not the case in every community. And so but we're experiencing that same softness because people are just making different economic decisions, and I respect that. I am not. I don't begrudge anybody how they spend their money, and we know that we are. While we think we're a necessity for some people, we're a luxury item, and so you have to take that for what it is, and you have to just be consistently thinking about the value that you provide your customer so
Mm.
that they feel it's as much of a necessity as you do. Right. And so that's what one of the things that I've been very pleased about is that our membership numbers have been strong, right? So the people that do join,
You've been
right,
killed, man.
we've been doing really well. And so I think that what that says to me is that once we get people in the door and get them interested in our product, that we have a really good conversion rate for those people wanting to be more engaged, right? And for me, that's the ultimate sign of a job well done is when somebody wants to join and be a member and come multiple times a month, a week, a year, whatever that is. That means that we've done our job well. Getting them in the door the first time is a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but after then it's on us. Like we control that from there on out.
And so I wanted to ask you about your membership card because they are
Mhm.
impressive. I mean, you're about to double your membership since you joined,
Mhm. Yeah, we
on the
have.
right.
Mhm.
And so my question to you is like you looked at it and like was there any strategic decisions that you made that you're like, okay, here's how we're gonna get our numbers up,
Mhm.
or it just happened like because I don't I think that there's many type of leaders. And there's leaders that are um, very strategic and it's like, okay, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and then things happen. And there
Mhm.
are other leaders that I think that they just have this energy and they just like just things starts moving, right?
Yeah,
There's and I think that's the beauty of business is like there is
mhm.
multiple ways to achieve different things,
For
right?
sure.
But I wanna get your take. It's like how do you do it?
So I think it's a combination of both of those things. Like I definitely have a different energy and a different excitement for what we're doing than what had been there previously. And again, all of the people that have held my position previously were very good at what they did and very talented people and very caring people and really trying to push the needle forward. I also think I happened to be at a really good time where there was opportunity for growth, and then I saw it and I took it. Right. So we made some changes to the way we were doing it. The funny thing is we did this at the same time that we raised prices and raised membership prices. Right. So it wasn't just that we now, part of our strategy and the reason why we've grown membership numbers is that we also added in a low cost membership for folks that are on that qualify for food assistance, right? We wanted to make sure that those families also had the same opportunities. And so I think being egalitarian about the way we look at who should be in the museum and being saying that's everybody should be in the museum, every kid should come here. It made it helped make it more relevant for people who could actually still like who could afford the full price, right? Like being saying that we're so important that we need everybody to be here makes people that can afford to pay for it want to be a part of it too, right? They like, oh, I can't miss out. I can't like my kid has to have that opportunity as well. And so, but we did take very strategic looks at, okay, what are we charging? How much can the market bear? Also, how do we make sure that we're not leaving people out by providing some discounted memberships that are available for certain subsets of people, and then just pushing hard. We made selling memberships our number one goal, right? Even though economically speaking, a member visit is worth less to me than just a single ticket sale, right? We make more money per single ticket sale if we are just selling them directly than if we have a membership. There's discounts, right, that come into place. But
Yeah, you
we
can
get
pick them.
engagement, right? We get more engagement, and we think that that shows the value of our product better. So I personally want everybody to become a member because I think that makes for a better world, better society, better community, all of those things. But I also know that we have to sell those individual tickets first to get people in. But we really focused on it. It was a concerted effort by the whole team to sell memberships. We had contests, we had conversations about it. We were talking about it all the time. It became part of our culture to sell memberships, and it's never stopped being part of that culture, right? Like I think we've stopped advertising them as much, but we still make it part of the culture. We still highlight people who are good at selling memberships to visitors on the floor. They still get called out as being special and exceptional at their work for doing that because it's really important to us.
Well, one of the things that to me from the membership perspective and the whole pricing situation, which a lot of people are, I think a lot of museums are afraid of kind of raising pricing on their memberships and things of that sort. But it's like everything, right? Like you rather, I don't know, pay for a good experience if you can, than to just, pay less for a shitty experience. Like just like, no, let's charge more and then let's make it worth people's
Right.
while. That's
Well,
where the
no, yeah,
money's going.
we have to back it up, right? Like the thing has to be there. Once we sell it to them, they have to because then they definitely won't come back, right? Like I don't want to have a one-time visitor unless they're just visiting our community from somewhere else. They're never going to be in Naples again, and they just happen to come by. That's great, and I'm happy to have them. But I want repeat visitors. I want people to experience this multiple times with their kids because that's where real learning and growth happens when they do that. So if I get them in the door, then I have to deliver, right? Like we have to be exceptional in our customer service. We have to be exceptional in our experience. And when we're not, we have to be upfront about it. We have to be honest about that and say, hey, we're not doing the best we can do right now. We're going to try to do better. Or, yes, like right now we're under construction for some projects that are happening at the museum, and that is definitely affecting visitor experience. Every conversation, every communication that we send out acknowledges that, right? It says to our
I
members,
love
our
your
visitors,
newsletter. Like you have a cartoon of yourself.
yeah, that
Love
happened
it. I know
a few
it's
months
so
ago or a
cool.
month ago, and so we're gonna run with it. People seem to like it. I thought it was goofy, but everybody liked it. So
It's a blast.
yeah,
This is very cool.
and I am in a business that allows for whimsy and fun, right? Like I'm not selling, it's not we're not curing cancer here. This is not life or death. This is fun, and so we should lean into that, right? We should be who we want our customers, our members, our visitors to see. And I think that's important, right? Like so, yeah, it made me feel a little goofy at first, but everybody really enjoyed it. So I'm all in on it.
Very cool. Very cool. So Jonathan, was there any like And every time I ask this question, people kind of goes back about like I was just like, hey, was there a tough situation? Every time I do, people
Mhm.
goes back to COVID, right? And
Mhm.
perhaps that's your case, perhaps it's not. But was there any tough situation when you were like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm facing this?
Yeah, for me, it was not COVID. I came in after, like, so at the tail end of COVID, right? I started in 2021. The
Yeah.
museum was on its back upswing. The next year we were back to almost normal numbers in 2022. And then 23 and 24 were our best years ever in terms of attendance, financials, that kind of stuff. For me, it was we had to make determinations about what we wanted to be as an organization that maybe weren't what was originally imagined by some of the people that were part of our team and part of the community as a whole. I really wanted to, we had to think about the product that we were delivering in a new, fresh way, right? Where we're approaching our 15th year in operation. We shouldn't be doing business still the way we were doing in year one, right? That's in any other sort of business. That's obvious, right? That's very basic, right? Like you're not running your company the same way you were running it the first year. You may even be doing a completely different
Oh my
product, right? Like,
goodness. I cannot run it the way I was running it 3 months ago. It's freaking
right.
crazy right now.
So you have to be like, so I think that the hard decisions are always the ones where you have to say, okay, are we at the inflection point where we can, where we need to make that pivot, where we need to do that thing. And some of it was, I was very adamant about paying our employees more. I came in when I interviewed with the board of directors. One of the things I said is that I don't think that your salary structure is a place where it promotes like good work from our team. So we're going to need to up that, and you guys need to be there to back me up and say, yes, we're going to raise the money to do that. And they did. And they've been fantastic about it, right? Now we're pivoting into also opening a preschool inside the museum. And so that's another big thing. Like there are some people in our community that are still not sold on this as an idea. To me, it feels very logical in that we already do early learning. So we should just also get into the formalized business of early learning. But it's not even popular among every museum, children's museum, right? Like there are some children's museums who are like, why are you diluting the product when we can have this pure, wonderful thing? And for me, that it feels like a matter of um, making sure that this business is that we're proofing the business for the next thing that happens, right? Like the next COVID, the next whatever. We have to have multiple lines of revenue, and we have to have multiple lines of inquiry, right? Just like any other business. People stop sometimes thinking about nonprofits as business, and that's when nonprofits aren't successful, right? I still have to make payroll. I still have to convince people to use my product. All of those things are still like I still pay vendors. I still have to run the building. I still have to turn on the lights and
You
AC and
have
all that
to,
kind of
and
stuff.
you have to retain talent. And
Yes,
the
yes,
only way to retain good talent is
it's
paying them money. If
compensation.
not, somebody's going to steal it from you.
Exactly. Well, and especially we live in a very challenging market for talent because cost of living is very high. It definitely costs way more to live in Naples, Florida, than it does to live in, Topeka,
Great.
Kansas, right? Like it's a very expensive place to live. And so if I want to have high quality people, I have to know that they can afford to live in our community, and it's really hard. It's not just me. The hospital is having challenges with that, right? The fire department, the sheriff's department, all of these like essential businesses, but also our hotels and restaurants that we're a very tourism heavy economy, and so they all it's affordable housing and employee retention and pay are the two things that we've been talking about them. Honestly, I moved to Naples 20 plus years ago. It's been the conversation the entire time. It's never during the recession. It sort of mellowed out a little bit because housing got cheap, but it only got cheap for a minute and then it went right back up because it's a very desirable place to live, right? Like who doesn't want to live in Naples, Florida? It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's when it's freezing in Buffalo, it's sunny and 70 in Naples, right? Like you
Right, right,
can't you
right. Give
can't
that
beat that.
t-shirt.
Yeah, and so that's why everybody wants to be here, which is why it's expensive to be here.
That is crazy. That is crazy. And I think is I always try to stress that to folks. It's like it's a business. The way if you're not thinking about it as a business, you're seeing from the wrong perspective. And we talk so much about talent.
Mhm.
And even like it's just like in any business. Like in any business, it's like for us, Jonathan, as a software company, can you imagine the shift in the last 4 months for us? It's been
No.
bananas. people who were good performers in December are not necessarily good performers 3 months from like now. It's
Mhm.
crazy. It's crazy. And
Well,
like,
and you also have to think about how are you developing your talent going forward, right? Because if some of the entry level talent is being wiped out by the sort of repetitive tasks that you did to learn the craft and the trade and all those kind of things are being wiped out by artificial intelligence, how are you gonna build your next generation of people, right? Like, so it's not only a talent problem now, but it's a talent problem in the future. That I think a lot of people are going to have to. Again, this is one of those things where I think I am uniquely insulated because we are as technology light as possible at the museum. We don't have screens. We don't like kids don't touch like they have to play with actual things, right? That's very important to me. And I think very important to the ethos of our museum is that we are making them use their senses in a different way.
you know, I
I
don't, I don't, I don't wanna bash other museums or even other partners. But people will tell me it's like, hey, why don't you go into like augmented reality and stuff? And I'm like, because that's defeats the whole purpose of going to a freaking museum.
I agree. Like it's supposed to be a sensory experience. It is supposed to be something that you actually have to
It's like
feel
I
and
want
touch
to
and
be
taste.
away from my phone.
Yes, and we can provide that, right? Like for a long time, we've changed it now. We have better. It's better now. But for a long time, we had purposefully bad Wi-Fi because we didn't want people on their phones. We wanted them engaging with their children, right? Now we've relaxed that a little bit because we realize that it is the interconnectivity of the world is just demands it, right? Like at some
Right.
point we're going to be alienating our customers rather than serving them in a good way. We changed that a little bit, but for a long time we had purposefully bad Wi-Fi so that they couldn't be on their phones.
Jonathan, do you have like months of like where you have like good cash flow and low cash flow?
Mhm.
And have you come up with like strategies to deal with that? Or is it just like good planning all over the year? It's like we know that this is gonna be like a tough month. We like we need to make sure that we have this money at least,
Yeah.
so on and
So
so
our business is very cyclical, specific to our community, right? So we're a seasonal community in general. We know that, but then also children's activities are sort of seasonal, right? Like we know that even though there are fewer people in Southwest Florida in the summer, a lot of our kids are here. And they're out of school, so they're going to be coming to the museum, right? We know that the times in like January through March, when people come to vacation in Naples, we're going to see a lot of kids. But we also know that then May is going to be a like pretty low performing month for us attendance wise. We know September, October, even into November are going to be pretty poor performance. So we have to plan in advance that we're going to do that we're going to have enough money set aside to make it through those. And like any business, we have the levers that we can pull, lines of credit, things like that, to make sure that we're smoothing things out. But honestly, that's part of the reason for the Early Learning Center also is that it's a very steady revenue stream. It's the people pay month after month, week after week for their kids to go to school, so we know how much we're going to make all the time there. We don't have to worry about that, and that the revenue generated from that can help smooth out the ups and downs. Because also fundraising is very cyclical, right? Most organizations raise all their money or most of their money in the fourth quarter when people are doing tax planning. And we do some of our money in the fourth quarter, but most of our money is actually in the first quarter when people are in town and they're giving, at events and things like that. So we know that we have to front load our year in the calendar year. It's actually at the end of our fiscal year, which is kind of helpful. But we know we have to front load our calendar year in order to make it through the leaner times of, in the end of the calendar year.
Jonathan, are you like of your fundraising, what would you say is the percentage of corporate fundraising versus personal fundraising?
I would say the bulk of our fundraising is personal. So we live in a community without a lot of big business, right? There's not a lot of corporate national headquarters here, that sort of thing. But we also live in a community with lots of very affluent people, and we're very grateful for that, right? So we lean more on the personal, which is a lot more challenging in many respects. You can raise more money from a person, right? Like I can, if you are affluent and have a lot to give, it's much easier for you to give me $1 million, $10 million, $100 million as Antonio than it is for me to ask your company to do that because your company has different priorities than you do, right?
Yeah,
Um, but
budgeting seasons and stuff like that. Yeah.
but corporations are very good at setting okay, we're going to sign a 5-year gift agreement, and you're going to give me $10,000 a year for the next 5 years. So I know I'm going to get that money. It takes a lot more to do that to raise that money from an individual. That same $50,000 is a lot more challenging in that regard. So while you can hit higher highs with personal philanthropy, the steadiness of corporate philanthropy is something I wish we had a little bit more of, honestly. And it's also something that we definitely trying to find inroads to do a better job in that. And some of that's about being a better partner, right? I have been, we've had some great success in the last couple of years in corporate philanthropy because we've been very intentional about the way we build that partnership, the way that we talk about them, not as a donor, but they're a partner. They care about the mission of educating kids in our community, and we care as their partner about making sure that their brand is represented in the appropriate way for that market, right? Like they're getting access to the families. We're getting access to the resources we need to provide for those families, but we're doing it in a way that's very symbiotic rather than one-way street. And I think for a long time, corporate philanthropy was viewed as a one-way street, right? It was, your company gives me X number of dollars and I put your name on something and then we don't talk anymore until next year when I come and ask you for that same X number of dollars, right? I think most nonprofits now know that it has to be a relationship just like personal philanthropy does, but we're trying to make sure that we're very intentional about how we build that relationship.
Jonathan, how would you define a successful museum?
I think a successful museum is different to every person and different for every locality, right? Like I want our museum to represent our community. I want it to be a place where they feel people of our community feel very comfortable, but then people from outside of our community come and learn how to be a part of it. So I think a successful museum, any successful cultural institution builds community. So if at the end of the day, you came to the museum and your kid made a new friend, or you like learned something about the region you live in, or they learned how to do a skill, that's a successful day for us. We're really trying to be something that's impactful in that moment, but then also that builds impact for the future.
What's a museum that you visit and like blew you away?
Oh my gosh, so many, so many museums. I'm trying to think of like the most wow
That
moment I've ever
inspired
had.
you?
I mean, obviously, the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York is just one of those places. It's a special place to have the breadth of experience of human expression in one place, right? Like to know how like to see it from ancient Egypt all the way through, right? Like the perspective of it. It's actually one of the really cool things. I know I haven't been to the new building yet, but the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, LACMA, just opened a brand new building, and they changed the way they look at the art. They're not putting it together by time period or by place anymore. They're putting it together by subject. And so you can sort of experience like how Monet would paint flowers, right? Like with like something that somebody in ancient times would have done a flower, or somebody in modern,
Oh,
like
so
Warhol would
cool.
have done a flower, right? Like all of that to me, like the great thing about museums is they should change the way you think about the world, right? They should change the way you experience the surroundings that you have. And so for me, the museums that really do that. But honestly, like I think some of the most impactful moments I've had are at little historical museums that I've come across on a travel, right? Like where you just learn something new. For me, those kind of things are special. And another one that I definitely want to call out because I can't believe it wasn't the first thing that came to mind, but I went to the new National Museum of African American History in Washington, D.C. And if you've
Oh, I'm
not been to
dying to
that
go
museum,
there.
it is the most impactful experience you will ever have as a museum goer. You start at the bottom and you work your way up, and it's like this mile and a half long path that you follow through the history of the Black experience in the United States. And it's so it's so sad, it's so poignant, it's so inspiring, all of those things like at once. You have all of these emotions, and it hits you. They did not hold anything back, man. They knew what they were doing, and they did it to perfection. They made you leave that museum having real feelings about something that maybe you have no experience with. Like that, obviously that is not my life experience, but I had real feelings about that when I left. And if every museum strived to do that in whatever form that is, like be the museum of candy, right? Like if you strive to have a new perspective and a real feelings about candy when you left the museum of candy, that would be a really big win, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be my
I,
goal for this year to go visit that museum.
Oh,
Absolutely.
it's one of those things where it should be mandatory. Honestly, we should require it of everyone because it just like yes, it makes you feel bad about things, and that's okay. It also makes you feel joyous, right? Like when I finished it, like when we finished the main museum part, the one of the exhibitions upstairs was um, all of these amazing contributions that the Black community had made to the arts and culture in the United States. And so there was, the car that Chuck Berry drove around, and the jackets that Run DMC was wearing, and all of this, like, and you're just like, hell yeah, like, there was Prince, and Lionel Richie, and all of these things, and it was just like it was joyous, right? Like, so you felt after you go through this experience that was really challenging at times, you came out of it, and on the other side, you found this like incredible expression of joy. And I can't imagine a better cultural experience than that.
All right, Jonathan, I'm gonna do a rapid fire here to end.
100%. Yep.
Tips that you will give to your early self on marketing.
Be curious about who your customer is.
All right. What about managing people, your team?
I think it's the same thing, honestly. Be curious about who your customer is. Like, be curious about why they are the way they are and who they are.
You know,
We just had a challenging conversation today among our leadership team about how we're not feeling always 100% connected, and why. Why is that? Did we stop being curious? And so I think that's, to me, curiosity drives everything that I wish I had known is about being curious. Like instead of assuming you know the answer, asking maybe, honestly, and tell you this is going to be a little weird, so I apologize. I have it tattooed on my arm. This quote from Thoreau that says, "The question is not what you look at, but what you see." And to me, that's about it. Like it's meant something to me since I was a little kid, and I read it for the first time. It's about being curious. It's about being like to know that like just because how something is viewed through the lens of your mind does not mean that that's what's actually there, right? Like you have to be curious about that process.
What about finance? You can't tell me that. What about finance?
No, finance is about being careful. Like just being like, I would tell myself to be a little bit more cautious because sometimes you make
Right.
assumptions. You make assumptions that don't pan out. You need to have a backup plan.
All right. All right. Jonathan, this was such a blast of an interview,
Yes.
man. Thank you
Thank you
so
so much. I
much.
really appreciate it.
Listen, everyone, so I hope that you watch. We're gonna put the transcript on the website, and we're gonna soon have this in YouTube in a week or so. But
Great.
this was amazing. Jonathan, thank you so much for giving us this time. Everyone will love this episode. They'll have a blast and learning from this.
I,
It was amazing.
I appreciate it so much. This was a great opportunity, and I'm really glad to have done it. Thank you so much.
So first, thanks for listening, watching, and spending some time. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. And if you'd like to catch more episodes of the Cultural Dilemmas, the Museum Leadership Lab, please share and subscribe to the podcast. And you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, or you can listen to it on Spotify, or rewatch the full episode on YouTube. Yes, I'm reading the thing. And then also, make sure to follow Vivart on LinkedIn and Facebook and X and whatever other social media thing we're going to put this on. And we'll be sharing more content and inviting other leaders from the museum and cultural industry. We definitely want more culture and more museums everywhere. So until then, please take care of my friend, and then we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.